Welcome back to HR with Love. I'm Rohana Latif, and in today's episode, we're talking about employee experience and what people truly feel at work. My guest today is Marc Haine, an employee experience and leadership expert who works with organizations to strengthen engagement, retention, and how people truly feel at work day to day. Marc, welcome to the show and thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for the invitation. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yes, it's definitely going to be fun. Marc, you often speak about employee experience through the lens of hospitality. What do you really mean?
It's really interesting because, in organizations, if we have customer facing employees, we're always harping on them to make absolutely sure that they are taking really good care of our customers. One of the things that I found in my 30 years in hospitality is that we have that focus to make sure the customers are happy, but we fail to recognize that employees are on an experience with us. They're on a journey with us just as much as our customers are. And I was lucky early on. I had a mentor who said, if you're not serving a customer, you darn well better be serving somebody who is. And
Wow.
that always resonated with me because I believe truly that we have a hierarchy in our organization. And I truly believe that the hierarchy has to serve the people below it and to make sure that they're successful. I find all too often this day and age, we are ladling managers with paperwork and with reports. And the one thing that we're not really focused on is making sure that they're taking care of people who they have in charge or who are they are supposed to be leading and more importantly, coaching.
Many organizations invest in engagement initiatives, but still people feel disconnected. Where do you think the gap usually is?
When we think about our organizations and when you look at engagement as kind of being a to-do list, then it's, oh, well, let's order pizza for everybody and let's just sit around and have a good time we have 45 minutes. The minute we make it a to-do item, the one thing we're not doing is probably the most important component of what's required today, and that is to build relationships. We're doing engagement as, oh, what can we do to do a team thing? Oh, let's do an escape room for the team. And that's fine, but it's not focused on building relationships. And Gallup has all sorts of studies about the importance of people creating relationships at work if they want to be happy. And now more than ever, it seems like with virtual, hybrid, and in-person office systems or business systems, that we're losing some of that. We're losing some of the components of building relationships. We're no longer having those creative collisions in front of the Keurig machine. I was going to say water cooler, but that would really date me. But having these creative collisions, meeting people in the hallways, being able to stop and actually have a chat about something is how we build relationships and we build understanding. Engagement, you can't mandate or policy understanding or connection. You can't say from now on, we're all going to be happy, okay? I've worked with organizations where sometimes they have, because they're so siloed, that they have constant misunderstandings. They have a constant set of cliques within the organization. And when you're bringing department leaders together, I see that there's a lot of finger pointing. And one of the coolest ways that I think that I've ever kind of superseded that mindset is when we had our very first leadership meeting. And the very first thing we did was we did the Virtues Project. Virtues Project is, if you Google it, it's out there. It's a set of cards of virtues, and the whole idea is that you go around the table, somebody picks a virtue card, they read it out loud, and it could be a virtue like persuasion, hope or fairness or any kind of virtue, and then they have to read it and they have to then talk about how this virtue is a strength or a weakness for them and what they'd like to work on as far as this particular virtue. And then the most powerful part of it is people go around the table acknowledging the virtue that they see in that particular person. And the magic happens is I don't care how mad or how stressed you are within the team environment. When somebody turns around and says, Rihanna, I really want to acknowledge your curiosity and your bravery by bringing that forward.
I think
How
that's
can
really
people stay
nice.
mad?
No, we can't stay mad. We need to release that. We need to be nice and listen. And maybe we could actually even embed it in the company values.
Absolutely. I think that's center to everything. I think a lot of times when I see managers, because I deal with a lot of smaller businesses, so businesses with under, let's say, 20 employees, and I see the owner operators, they're really excited when they bring a brand new person on board, but then 6 months later, they're pulling out their hair and they're pointing fingers at this person. I don't understand why this person's not doing this or not doing the work that fulfilling expectations. And ultimately, I think the onus is on the management to be able to set those expectations and come to the understanding of what those expectations are.
We shouldn't be having a blame culture. The whole point of being a good leader is taking accountability for yourself and your team and leading by example.
Absolutely. And, I think as well, from a leadership perspective, it's also requires the virtue of humility. We have to get ourselves out just because we're the manager and we have all the keys to the building. We have to understand that we ourselves are just one person. Just because we have the role doesn't mean we have all the answers. And we surround ourselves, I believe, when we hire people, we're surrounding ourselves with people with superpowers. And if we're not tapping into their superpower, then we're left doing all the work and then wondering what's wrong with everybody else.
As organizations grow and evolve, how can leaders stay consistent in how people experience the organization day to day?
I think that's where this mindset of stop being a manager and start being a coach. Anytime that we used to have the TV show Undercover Boss, and it's always so much fun watching that because people go into it not understanding what their teams are going through. And then every single episode, the leaders are like, I didn't know they had to go through this. I didn't know that particular policy I didn't know that hurt. We have to do something. And so this idea that we need to be more connected to our teams and to the various different aspects of our businesses. Not that we're there to micromanage, but this whole idea of management by walking around, by actually talking with people, having relationships with teams and being able to build those teams and being able to have those coaching moments, I think is just so extreme because that's how we build trust.
Yes, and it's a great example that you've given because I really love watching that program. And you have to really care about your business. More importantly, you have to care about the people in your organization to see the hoops and the roadblocks that they're going through and also the good things that they're doing.
So imagine for a second, Rihanna, if we stopped looking at our organization as departments with teams and started looking at our organizations as communities. Just like we have our businesses within a community. Inside that community, we have other businesses, we have residents, we have people within the town or the city, wherever we are, we have community. But what would happen if we started looking, instead of kind of creating the engagement component, if we start looking at community building rather than, oh, let's build better engagement? In my mind, when I think of somebody saying to somebody else, I'm part of this community, there becomes automatically a mindset of some semblance of accountability that we're a part of something. We're part of this community. And to that end, I do a lot of speaking on how to create a caring community rather than just, I'm a part of this. No, we're part of this caring community. And what does that look like? How does it change then the perspective when somebody says, I belong to this? One of the things that drive me absolutely crazy is I love working here. We're such a happy family. I don't know about you, Rihanna. I don't know many families that are not dysfunctional. And having Uncle Bob sitting with his belt loosened at the table at lunchroom, I think doesn't cut it. But if we talk about this idea of we're part of this caring community, now the accountability is I'm going to care for you as much as you're going to care for me, but I'm also accountable for myself as being part of this community because we all have a role within this community.
For HR leaders looking to improve employee experience in a meaningful way, where is one place they can start?
As far as I'm concerned, the HR department is the conscience of the organization. So, first and foremost, the HR department, HR people within the organization, the professionals, they have to be the true north. And I think what happens all too often is they become the policy and the benefits people. Where I've seen it most successful is when department managers can come to HR and say, Rihanna, I have a challenge with some people and I need some guidance. The minute I can come to you as my sounding board, as a way for me to be able to voice my frustrations, my tensions, my stress, and you are there to help guide me with how to deal with it, right away, we kind of look at this idea of a toxic workplace and we say, how do we put this on its head? It's much harder for me now to be toxic out of frustration, out of stress, instead of yelling, screaming, pointing fingers, to have a sounding board to help me deal with those feelings and those frustrations so that when I am going to be sitting down with a team member, whether that's a discipline action, whether that's a coaching session, whatever that might look like, because I've had that resource in my back pocket, I'm able to deal with it much more logically. I could take emotion out of it and I can look at long-term solutions rather than the short-term harping on the problem and my life is terrible. Right. And so being able, so I think ultimately HR needs to be that conscience. Owners, operators, managers, CEOs need to establish that the HR manager, the HR director is the conscience of the business and the true north of the business. They're the ones I believe that must be constantly talking about the virtues and values of the organization and then use that as accountability to help develop their leaders.
Do you have any final thoughts for our listeners?
Ultimately, our people within our organizations are people within our organizations. They're not the expense line on the financial statement. They're not people who are machines. And I think all too often when leaders get out of their offices and actually interact with the people on their team, they're going to find that people have so much more capacity than their job description allows. And I think one of the hardest things for anybody is to be marginalized by a job description when they know they can bring so much more. So, my challenge to everybody is find out what your people's superpower is and then work with them to make it even better.
Mark, thank you for this conversation and sharing your experience.
It's my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me on the show and well done.
Until next time, how people feel at work is shaped by what organizations do every day and not what they say. Lots of love from London. Bye for now.